Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Reset with me, your host Nadeem Khan. I'm the author of People Analytics, and today we are going to be talking about the next episode of Reset, and we'll be talking about purpose. Before I introduce my guest for today, who is Sarim Tahir Khan, I would like to. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to another episode of Reset with me. I would like to just give a brief recap for what has happened in the previous episode. So just let me start. So we started off our journey with understanding mental health, mental toughness. We moved on towards understanding passion, and then moved towards looking at the change in career trajectory that we would be facing in the COVID-19, looking at the impact of technology, the skills that are required, and yesterday we had insights on how leadership will be changed in the COVID. And so this program basically is I would say targeted towards those people who are either suffering or have suffered from the COVID, and how to come out with flying colors. And that's why we've invited a series of guests who have achieved a lot in their domains and can give us professional advice on how to move forward in the COVID. So introducing today's guest, I would like to. So before I call him on the screen, Sarim T. Syed is an entrepreneur, author, and a T-shaped marketeer. Now, I'm very interested to know what a T-shaped marketeer is. We'll ask him this question with an experience over 12 years, who combines the power of growth hacking, data analytics, service design, behavioral psychology, machine learning, artificial intelligence, clustering, PR hacking, media manipulation, and data and digital media advertising to make any business a success on the digital front. The other thing about Sarim is that he's the director and vice president of Growth Hopper. Growth Hopper is a service growth hacking and data-driven marketing agency that services Fortune 1000 and Fortune 1500 clients across the company's 2 locations. So let me invite Sarim to the screen, and we'll ask him initially a couple of questions. Hello, Sarim. Hello, Sarim. Hello, Sarim.
Hello, Nadeem. Thank you for having me. Welcome, Islam, Nadeem. Thank you for having me. I'm sure that am I audible?
Yes. I think a bit of your.
Nadeem, am I audible to you?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect.
Yes. If we have any problems, in case you can cut the stream and rejoin, and hopefully, inshallah, that won't happen. Thank you, Sarim, for joining us. I've given a brief introduction, but I'm very curious to learn what a T-shaped marketeer is. Can you help us with that?
Yeah, sure. Actually, yeah. So T-shaped marketeer is a term. Actually, you take an example of a T. So there are 2 types of marketeer. One type of the marketeer is who are either excelling in the conventional marketing and the communication marketing, and some are either in the digital marketing. So a T-shaped marketeer is, who knows about the UX design, who knows about the service design, who knows about about the web analytics, about the AI, about the UI and how UI changes, and on the bottom of that, who also knows about the digital media, also knows about let's say that conversion rate optimization. So it's like a full stack marketeer who knows different things, different areas other than the marketing, that overall contributes towards the marketing, because marketing itself is not just the one domain. The development and the technology also contributes to the marketing, the design also contributes to the marketing. So if a marketeer has a reasonable knowledge about all these domains, so he can also work single-handedly or with minimum resources to execute any project. So that's what a T-shaped marketing in today's world, that you have actually a reasonable and a hands-on knowledge of applying anything from A to Z that comes within the technical marketing, engineered marketing, or digital marketing as a whole.
Amazing. And I think you're one of the first Pakistanis that I know who has self-educated himself towards this level. Now, the journey, you can actually look at Salim's journey. If you Google him, you can have a look at it. And one of the things that I would like to mention that he's been recently awarded a PhD. I think he's the one of the first to be awarded um, a PhD on the work that he's done. I think it's an honorary. It's an honorary PhD
It is.
from one
Yes.
of Pakistan's top institutions. So I'm just waiting to hear where that's from. We're unable to announce it, but many congratulations to you on that and to the research that you're
Thank
doing
you. Thank you.
from Pakistan. So I think that's again that is hats off to you for that. So we'll dive on directly towards the
Thank you
first
for that.
question. Now, Sarim, with people like you, before we were discussing offline, for me and you, doing this sort of work is very close to the purpose and passion of our life. And our female counterparts, our wives, sometimes have very much. I would say, they can't distinguish between whether we're working or whether we're just generally living our life. So how do people like how did you end up finding your passion? That's the first thing. But there, I also understand that there is a point where when a person is pursuing your passion, you burn out, and it happens to a lot of people. It's happened to me during when I was writing my book, and instead of me just blabbering and saying it's happened to me just alone, it's good to be sharing these I think these moments of insights with our listeners and how they can cope. What's the coping mechanism? Because a lot of the times it happens is that you're on this journey towards pursuing your purpose, your passion in life, and you burn out, right? And then you let go of everything, and that's when you go out and you want to either let go of
Right.
life, or you go out and you say, I wanted to be an entrepreneur but I can't because I've burned out, all the fuel's gone, now what do I do? So what is that? What are those tactics, what are those strategies? We're going to be talking about those things, finding the purpose, finding
Sure.
work life balance and finding purpose. So that is the whole day, just to outline. My first question: what do you understand, what is purpose, if you can just define that for the lay person?
So okay, so for me, the purpose is the way you live your life. So this can be, living your life in any way you want, as long as there is a purpose behind it. For example, if I know that there is a specific purpose for my professional life, and for example, if I'm waking up at 9 a.m. for that purpose, or if I'm waking up at 3 p.m. for that purpose, and then going to bed at 2 a.m., so that's fine. Every purpose of every person distinguished for himself, and we should not try to duplicate or exactly replicate the purpose of someone else's to our own life. So if I talk about Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, the problem what most of us are doing, we are trying to replicate the purpose of others into our own purposes. So
Mhm.
one of the mistakes that I have seen in the people, I'm going to talk about the remaining things as well, that if I want to follow someone as in as my mentor, or I some individual inspires me. So the problem with individuals, what they are doing is, if I want to be, let's say, some sort of a billionaire in in a space domain, or in, let's say, software domain, so I'm going to follow what Bill Gates is doing, what Elon Musk is doing. But the problem is, we are going to follow what they are doing post billionaireship, and we never saw what they have done to be here where they are right
Yes.
now. They might have compromised their sleep, they might have compromised their social life. So in order to successfully achieve your purpose, there is a specific series of compromises that you have to give, but you have to make sure, while paying that cost, you are not reaching too near to the burnout, or at least you are not sacrificing your family. So for this whole thing, when you talk about purpose,
Mm.
purpose is sometimes very expensive for few people, and
Yes.
if you are willing to give that cost for reaching or to achieving that purpose, you will definitely reach there. If we talk about how to find a purpose, or how the individual finds a purpose, so I personally believe, and I have a different theory about it. I personally believe that if you are spending time among the people, let's say you are in your teens, for me, I believe that a purpose should be defined, or purpose should be understood to a person when he or she is there in their teens. So we all have this family system in the on this side of the world. We meet with our relatives, we live with our parents, and the family gatherings is like a norm over here, and every weekend you go to see either your aunt or either your uncle. So for example, if I'm sitting among my cousins,
Mm.
and if I like to convince someone through my knowledge or through my limited knowledge. For example, I'm 14 years of guy and I'm sitting among my cousins, and there are a couple of elders as well, and there is a discussion going on a certain topic, and I want to convince, my nature is to convince someone to towards my knowledge or whatever knowledge I have. That means somehow I'm lean towards selling. If I'm lean towards convincing someone, that means I'm good at selling. If I have convinced two elders and three cousins of mine, and rest of them are not convinced, that means I am specifically made either for the marketing or for the selling. So this is something you have to understand what you are good at from the very early stage at life.
Yes.
And for
Yes.
example, if there is another person who is not trying to convince anyone, he or she is rather putting up some technical thoughts, some technical arguments, that means they are either made for the engineering, because engineers are critical thinkers. So
Okay.
an individual has to define that what he or she is good at. And one of the challenges that our ecosystem or the our side of the world face is I would say a flaw in our guardianship. So our guardians, obviously every guardian is loving and wants to have some sort of benefit for their children, whoever our guardian is. So if, let's say, if my guardian are my parents, so unfortunately our country, where if I talk about the passion, if I talk about the purpose, if I talk about the ambition, it's in the background. It was in the background in last 2 decades. People used to work, people used to know that there is only one thing after your academic education, that is going and serving for a job.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship or business was not a thing back then.
Mm.
So unfortunately the domain of the education was just limited to either commerce or engineering. But
Mm.
but now we have a couple of other domains that one can explore. Either they can be, if I have completed my A levels, and if I just don't want to go to the university, that's fine, go to the acting and either be a star on TikTok. So there
Mm.
are different domains now.
Yes.
You can be anything that you want, and your purpose is not should not be defined, should not be shackled by a suit, by a car, by an expensive office. If your purpose makes you happy, that's your purpose. For me, if your purpose is not making you happy, that's not your purpose. If you are mentally unstable, if you can't put your best foot forward, that is not your purpose. A purpose is directly related to the amount of your happiness. If I talk about few other things, that how should one achieve the
Amazing.
purpose, or while achieving the purpose, how you should balance your family life if you
Mm.
are single or if you are a family man. So first talk about being, if you're a single. In our culture, I personally believe in the Pakistani culture, if you have positively and a little politically, convince your family, or the only barrier in your success in our culture is your immediate family. That's a little rude statement, but unfortunately that's the truth. If our family
Yes.
is giving us a position, financial position, which are too comfortable to live with, but too secure, they always prefer our security, and they are not going to let us take this step which is risky, or which they seem as risky for us. So if I'm going to say that I'm starting a business right after my university, they might say, business don't have any stable income, so it's better you go for a job and try to settle down your life early on, get married. So unfortunately it's very difficult in our ecosystem, in our culture, to convince your parent. If you have
Mm.
convinced your parents, there is nothing which can stop you from the success. That's what I believe in
Mm.
our culture on this
Mm.
side of the world.
Mm.
But that does not mean that you have to, while finding your purpose, while becoming passionate towards something, that you have to leave your parents. In order to achieve your purpose, in order to take the first step towards for a purpose, the first step is to convince your parents. And if you have convinced your parent, that means you cannot just let anything come in the way of your passion or your purpose. So first
Mm.
thing is, and now let's say that you have moved towards a job, you are MT or intern in a specific company. Always, if you are trying to find a professional purpose, so my suggestion would be to always join a mid-sized company or a small-sized company. So again, everybody have their own opinion, and people can disagree or agree. We can have a discussion on that. So why I believe that you should join a mid-sized company or a small-sized company, because they have very less layers of management. There is no red tape, there are no unnecessary protocols. And if you are working in a big company, they have those protocols. If you have been hired for marketing a specific product, you will be stick on that. But if you talk about the mid-sized or small-sized company, unfortunately their business demands to give multiple job roles to an individual. While having multiple job roles, you can actually experience what is giving you the happiness and what you are actually good at. Are you good at B2B sales, or are you good at B2C sales? Are you good at customer support, or are you good at customer success, that you are responsible for making sure that your customer is happy with the team that is in your business? So
Okay.
it's not a general statement. Sometimes some consortiums or big companies also give you cross department access and you can learn from them, but generally it's a wise option to find a mid-sized company who can let you roll in between the departments very easily, and you can learn multiple things at a time. Once you
I
have yes,
Yes.
please.
Acha, I wanted to ask you. So you've asked. We started off with a session of how to. You talked about, if you're good at selling, you would be selling something. But I think
Sure.
I just like to add something to this for people who,
Sure.
your kids or yourself. I think it's very important to reflect on what you're good at. I think it's important to understand your strengths and weakness at the same time, both of them, and reflect. I think, mind in the first session in mindfulness with Heather, we did talk about reflection and the importance of reflection, which is basically is not we're not empowered to do reflection during our education system, and even our parents want to put us into boxes, exactly as you said. Either you do engineering, or either you do, go into medicine,
Yeah.
but they're not looking at what the strengths of the child are. But if you push them towards their strengths, they would automatically, they would be excelled in that career. Now, a question would arise for me in the pandemic. People are laying off other people. What are the opportunities out there
Yeah.
for people? Let's say if they're not able to find a job, what should they be doing? I know you mentioned TikTok. There are other platforms like,
Yeah.
Upwork, like Fiverr.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about, if there are companies that, if someone wants to, let's say, Gary Vee always talks about, if you want to join my
Yeah.
company, do something unique and I will hire you. What kind of advice would you give to new career graduates? How can they land a job, get some experience? I think, Dr. Mudassir gave an example which I'd like to quote, is that, uh,
Sure.
start to work for a company for 18 months, and if you enjoy the process, continue. If you don't, then leave. What is the kind of um,
100%.
advice that you would give to newbies, and especially those people, again, ek to newbies ki aap baat kare, and secondly to those people who have a lot of
Well,
experience
laptop.
and they've just, lost their jobs because of the COVID? What kind of experience, what kind of advice can you give to these people?
Sure. So I would like to start with the latter one first. Those who have unfortunately been laid off from their jobs. So personally speaking, if you are able to afford the food for 2 times and you are not sleeping hungry, if you are in a condition after being laid off like that, so take this as a blessing in disguise. And I would say, shut off your laptop, shut off the books, just stop everything and do not find the job. Just do not find the job. This is the time that you want to relive that moments, that those 3 months that you have missed with your newborn baby or newborn daughter, or those 3 months that you have missed while you were newly married. Take this time as a blessing in disguise. If you can afford 2 times of bread, that's it. Do not go for the luxury, do not go for the secondary expenses. If you have been laid off, take some time off, work on yourself. Obviously we can't go near to the nature if you are living in a metropolitan city like Karachi. So unfortunately, due to the lockdown, we cannot travel. But what you can do is just go to the nature, go to your rooftop, maybe walk on your lane, do some sort of meditation, feel the environment around you, feel the leaves around you, close your eyes, inhale some breath, inhale all the negative, inhale all the positivity, exhale negativity. So try to be as healthy as possible and do not worry about that you have been laid off from your job. You have actually not been laid off from your job. You have actually been given a chance to, to again reset yourself, and this was a chance that you were literally near to the burnout. So it's
Yes.
a nature's way of saying that, Sarim, you are being burnout. It's better. Let's take a reset. Let's take a pause. So once the situation is calmed down, once things are settled down, let's say in August or in July, we actually know where the industries are heading now.
Yes.
Then try to mold yourself for that offering. That is the product that you are ready for being hired by the company, because
Yeah.
no matter what the companies are doing right now, they are going to constantly restructure themselves for next
Yes.
3 months. There is going to be constant shuffling, constant restructuring. Even if you land up a job somewhere, you are not going to be taken seriously the way you should be by a specific company, because there is too much uncertainty. Companies are filing for bankruptcy, they are not valuing their employees, and unfortunately it's because the situation is so much chaotic, they are just not at their best to even treat their employees or treat their customers. So I guess it's
Right.
better for those who have been laid off at this point to learn about something which they always wanted to learn. Spend time with kids. I would say spend those 6 months, those 7 months with your newly born daughter that you have missed when they were born. So it's better try to be as close as possible with your
Okay.
family, because if you want to keep your family happy, the first restriction is that you have to be happy yourself. And if I talk
Yeah.
about, that burnout thing, Nadeem, that we were talking about previously, so I have seen a lot of people who are near to burnout. I have been burnout a couple of times, but now looks like I have cracked that key, that why you can never be burnout. So the burnout usually happens when you work too much towards a specific thing. And why you work towards a specific thing? Because you have a certain goal in mind. And why you have a certain goal in mind? Because you have modeled your future. If you are going to model your future, your present is never going to support your future. If my future model is that I have to buy a Mercedes Maybach, so my current position at a 100K salary is never going to support, for example, my future model of buying a Maybach. So I'm going to push myself to the extreme just to make sure the future I have modeled should be achieved within next 6 years. So one should never model their future. One should be always have a purpose, that's their purpose in life. They have to excel in marketing and they have to excel in engineering. That's their purpose in life. Try to not model your future. When you're going to model your future, you are going to push yourself to the extremes to make sure your present is going to affordable for your future. And if it's not going to affordable, there is going to be a point where you will burn out, you will have a nervous breakdown, and you will eventually be terminate your own self from the job, or someone will fire you. So it's better to not model the future, but to have a purpose for the future. That's what I believe. After going through a lot of things,
Amazing.
I have been diagnosed with an acute neurotic condition about 2 years ago. I still have that, but again, coming to the strengths, coming to the purpose, and if my purpose is to become the uncontested marketeer of the world, right now I can say I am well known in, let's say, MENA in Pakistan. A couple of my clients know me in the US and the Americas and the Europe, and a couple of people do follow me over there. So if my goal is to become a fine marketeer, I am not going to associate this goal from the material possessions. That's the first key. So my goal is to become a finest marketer. I'm not saying that finest marketer should earn just $1,000 per hour for a session like this. One should not associate material or monetary possessions with their purpose. If you are going to attach your monetary possessions or material possessions with your purpose, there is going to be a conflict. There is going to be a war in your brain that either go for the material possessions or go for the monetary possessions, or go for your passion. Once you are achieving working for your passion, dedicated to your employees, material possessions are going to stick with you like a magnet. Because if you are doing something that you are best at, and there is no any other person who can do that job better than you, then obviously you're going to achieve all those worldly things that unfortunately we all live for.
Now, a question one arises. I've taught at university, and I tell this to a lot of students of mine when they're out, when they've graduated. What happens is, when you've graduated from a top tier university, there is a kind of a positioning that you're filtered with, that you're going to get a job that's 50K, and you're just going to be driving a Mercedes as soon as you get out, and all the luxury life that is probably kind of a persona that a student gets out with. And then they seldom accept jobs with companies like yourself and myself, who want to offer them associate jobs with an okay salary. I'm not saying a less salary, but an okay salary, right? Which kind of
Yes.
gets them, I would say, two to three times of, as you said, can pay for their bread and butter, and probably pay for if in a good condition, pay for their rent. So how would you like to encourage people to start off? Because I always encourage people to start off small, and probably if they're living with their parents, they still have an opportunity where they're earning this amount of money. They don't have to pay for rent. They don't have to pay
Yeah.
a huge amount for tax or other bills, which obviously their parents are paying for. So how would you encourage people to actually, these are graduates that I'm talking about, to start off from somewhere? Because if they don't start off, they're wasting a lot of their time. And especially with the pandemic, you have a lot of openings, but they're not big openings. They might be small openings. So would you kind of advise something similar to them towards finding their passion, towards finding their purpose in life?
Sure, definitely. So the first thing is that starts off for the newbies or for the fresh graduates, the specific, mindset that you have discussed. That's unfortunately the harsh reality of our world. We as a university, we as an educational institution try to portray that picture, which is just utopian for those graduates, and they are so sure they're going to get it. But one as a graduate, one as a freshie should always be self-aware. If you are not self-aware of your circumstances, of a situation, unfortunately you are going to be the part of this trap that unfortunately people are going to sell you, the dream they're going to sell you, that you are going to get 50K of job plus some benefits. So for example, if I am living, sorry for sounding a little biased, if I'm living in a very low class area in Karachi, and I know that what my family is living in for last couple of years and how hard my parents have worked for me to be at this point, that is studying in a professional university and graduating from a professional university. So your goal should be elevating the lifestyle of your family just a bit. Not something like this, that if your family was at this position and your goal is to take them on this level through your first job, that's not the goal. Your first goal should be just to elevate your family a little, that is at least contributing, let's say, a 2,000, 3,000, or 4,000 rupee towards your family if you are a low class individual. And you should be self-aware what you are actually. If someone is selling you a dream of getting a 50K of salary and your father's monthly income is just 15,000 or 20,000, so try to make sure that your goal is to not to get the 50,000 salary, but your goal is to get started early. If you have to reach somewhere, and if you have to beat your competition, the only thing that matters is start early. If I have to travel from Karachi to Lahore, and my brother also has to travel from Karachi to Lahore, and if we both have this mind that we have to be in Lahore by 7 p.m. today, so if I am leaving at 4 a.m. today, I will be there early than him. And if he's leaving at 8 p.m., he will be reaching, late than me. So that's how life works. That's how purpose works. If you want to go towards somewhere, if you want to achieve something, always start early. And if you are talking about education, so you should definitely do job in when you are in your sixth semester. Now I know that the seventh semester and the eighth semester are the toughest one for any education, talk about medicine, engineering, or commerce. But you have to make sure that you are starting your job a little early, just to understand what market actually wants. Have you actually studied that thing in the university and or not? And again, never ever let your university school come in the way of your education. You can learn from everything and anything. Internet is there for you. It's a community. It's whether it's in your phone, it's in the form of a iPad, it's in the form of a computer. So make sure that you are starting out early on the fifth semester and you are understanding what market actually wants. If your university is not teaching you that in the majors, try to learn it yourself from the internet. So make yourself available for the market way before your peers are making themselves available for the market.
Amazing. You've touched on two amazing things. Self-education, which is very important. I think we've touched on this on previous sessions on bite-sized gaining bite-sized skills from platforms like LinkedIn, one of them,
Yep.
from Coursera, edX, and these are available for free now. So I'm not sure, and I keep talking to students. They're just looking to get a university degree. They're not looking to upskill themselves. And I think upskill, and then the second thing that you've touched upon is to start off early and get the hands-on skill, because employers are actually looking for hands-on skill. Let's come back to finding purpose, right? You did mention, this is my last question, and then
Sure.
I would ask people who are watching, please ask questions, and we will obviously divert the questions towards Sarim. Uh, One of my last question is, you did say purpose is directly proportional to happiness, right?
That
And then
is.
there's a conflict that comes. Okay, so I'm driven by my purpose in life, but there's a work life balance that I need to take care of. You've talked about your family being there. How do we balance this? How do we balance finding our purpose, staying on it, and being happy at the same time? What have you learned? What are the tips? I would say, if you can give us any tips, 3, 5, 10, whatever you feel, to be on that purposeful journey. Now, my tips that I would like to start off with is that I reflect, and I reflected that this is what I want to do, because I failed a lot. So I kind of reflect, and there's like a circle that goes, and you know about it as well. Okay, you reflect, and then
That's
you
right.
kind of improve as you go along. And it's a journey where if you're working with probably a coach or a mentor, they take you through that journey. But what exactly has worked for you? That's what I want to ask you.
Sure. So first, if we talk about how to balance your work life towards your reaching towards your purpose, I'm going to be very honest. I don't think so. I'm good at managing my work life with my professional life, but I have this one theory I call quality balance. So the quality balance is something that if you are spending 14 hours at work, that's fine. It's your purpose, it's your passion, and your passion leads towards your purpose. But if you are spending 3 hours a day with your wife, emotionally uninterrupted, and that should quality time that should be your wife, kids, not be any sort of work. No matter how big opportunity is there on your way, you have your phone, just don't attend the call. If you are giving 3 hours to your family out of 24 hours, there should be a quality time. So I call it quality balance. So again, if you are going to balance, let's say 9 hours to work, 9 hours to family, we are going to, unfortunately lag behind on something. Either we are going to be totally for the family or totally for the work. So if you are a purposeful individual because your passion drives your purpose, so that's the harsh reality, is you have to give much of your time towards your purpose, towards your passion. That includes learning, that includes meeting with people. But if you have got a chance of spending 3 hours, 4 hours with your family, that should be the quality time, and it should be uninterrupted, period. There should not
Okay.
be any interruptions from your team, from your clients, no one. And again, if you are getting married and you know that the marriage is not the arranged, if it's an arranged marriage, so what I did for myself was I took a time of 5 years from my wife while I was getting married. We converted our love marriage, a love into a relation into a marriage. So I just asked her, can you give me straight 5 years after our marriage? She asked me for what actually. So I just said that in these 5 years, I'm not going to give you the time that you're expecting from me. I might not be able to, give you 10 hours a day or take you to the holidays, because in these 5 years, I just have to work for my own self. I have to work for me. And Sarim is only going to be my only priority, not the wife. And if you can give me these 5 years, I can assure you the next time, the next year, or the whole lifetime, I'm going to be available for you no matter when and wherever you need me. And I bought that time. And
Amazing.
in these 5 years, I actually did something well with my purpose, with my passion. So the problem is we all should be with what we want. If you are with what you want, nobody is going to
Sarim, we've lost you for a second.
and I totally believe this. Sure. So one of my clients used to say this, and I totally believe in this thing. So that is ke mangoge nahi to milega bhi nahi.
Huh.
So if you want to get something, you have to ask for it.
Yes,
And
yes,
if
yes.
you're not going to ask for it, you're not going to get it. So
Hmm.
you have to ask for your time from your spouses, from your parents, that I'm not going to be available for you once I'm into my professional life. And that's not because of you. Be honest. That's because of me, because I love myself and I have to take myself to a place where you guys want me to be there.
Hmm.
So you have to be, again, a manipulative in a positive way, that you are conveying your message and people are understanding actually that you are your own priority. Make yourself your own priority. That's the only thing that can lead you efficiently and swiftly towards your purpose.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarim. You've touched upon a concept known as self-love, which is
Yes,
obviously motivated by the desire to excel. Um, just to probably second your thoughts, exactly the same way,
sure.
I had a similar conversation with my wife very early
Right.
on, and I informed her, and I think this is about service. This is about leadership. We had this the same. I think it's a follow-up session of yesterday where we said leadership with a purpose, right? When you're the lead, I'm not saying that the male is the leader here, please, all the females that are listening, not in that sense, but both of the spouses are the leaders here, right? So even in the case where the female wants to excel, let's say, Hira Ali would have talked to her husband. I'm just presuming here, but I would say that I talked to my wife and I informed her, and we had a communication and a conversation on what the objectives of Nadeem is. Sarim had a conversation what the objectives of Sarim is, and I made a video very early on where on performance, and I said in the very 3-minute clip, and I said you need to sit down with your wife and you need to tell them what you're doing at home and why you're doing it. And I think that is important to have the openness to communication, to talk to your spouse, to talk to your peers, to talk to your parents, and inform them what you want to do in life, right? And if you're open and they
Right.
understand that you have a purpose, you're driven, you're motivated, you love yourself, and not love self means grooming in that sense, but you want to become something, and that transformative process obviously burns you. That it's a process that leads you towards khudi, which is the concept where Allama
Yes.
Iqbal talks about it, and that's a whole process. That's a whole kind of Pandora box that opens up, which I think Sarim, you're a living example of this, and mashallah,
Thank you for
mashallah,
that.
on this. And it does take 4 to 5 years, and even 10 years in some cases. Jeff Bezos didn't become
Definitely.
Jeff Bezos in 2 years. It took him 20 years to become the billionaire he is today. Um, you
Yes,
know,
sorry for interrupting you, Nadeem. I would like to add just one last thing.
yes,
So I have seen this mistakes, very common among the youngsters, even among the professional people, that they don't understand the composition of goals actually. So
yes,
if you have to achieve something, so don't do that. I'm going to achieve this thing after 1 year. Let's say that if you have a goal to achieve in 1 year and you are working every month, every week for it, but unfortunately you're not achieving that, or by the end of that year you haven't achieved that, so you will be demotivated like anything, and you might be on the verge of shutting down that venture or leaving that thing. So I guess, so the efficient thing or the prudent thing to do here is, if you have that goal, try to break it down into weekly macro goals. So those weekly macro goals, and go ahead, if you achieve one macro goal, you won't be into demotivation, you will love yourself because you have achieved a number of micro goals
Sarim,
to achieve that macro goal, but somehow you have put in your work, but that macro goal wasn't achieved.
yes. Can you please repeat that? We lost you there. Can you please repeat what you said about the micro and macro goals?
Sure.
Sorry, we lost
Sure.
your
So
we
yeah, I
lost
was saying that in
communication.
order to achieve one macro goal. Okay, am I audible now? Can you hear
Yes,
me?
yes.
Okay. Okay. So in order to achieve that macro goal, you have to break one macro goal into couple of micro goals on weekly basis specifically. So for example, if you are achieving your weekly goals every time, or your monthly goals every time, but God forbid somehow you have not been able to achieve that one big macro goal at the year end, so you are not going to be demotivated. You are not going to you won't thought to leave that specific thing, because you have achieved already a series of micro goals, and you will know that you are a doer, and you are not just a dreamer. You know that you have achieved micro goals. So always try to make sure that you are moving towards your macro goal with a micro goals, and not with the perfection, but with the progress. So for example, if I have achieved something that has a score of 4 today, and if I'm doing something tomorrow that has a score of 4.1, that's more than enough. At least
Hmm.
you are not honest, you're not stagnant, you are moving, you are progressing. And that's the example that you are alive. Those who are alive, they make progress in a very small amount. Don't try to jump from the score 4 to the score 8 the very next day. Even
Hmm.
if you are
Hmm.
just taking one step, that's fine, you are progressing. It took me approximately 6 months to normalize my speech. When I first got hit with this disease, I wasn't able to speak properly for the first 6 months, but I took it in a very positive way. That's fine. My goal was never to cure myself in 4 months or 6 months. My goal was that I am going to beat this disease, and I have embraced this disease. No matter how long it's going to take, I'm going to make constant progress. Once you make
Alhamdulillah.
constant progress towards something, you are definitely going to be better at it, but just don't try to be perfect at it.
Yes, I think I would like to add to what you've said with the micro and macro goals. Exactly in a similar way. When I started off, I think when I came here, I started off at the beginning of the year. I have a diary. I still have it here, and I said, apart from the reflection part, which I have a TEDx talk on that, but I at the beginning of the year, what I used to do was I used to align my objectives and goals. Like I have like three big goals, and then break them down, and I think revisit those goals. Whether I am on my way, on my track to, let's say, if I want to go on an international conference, am I able to exceed those goals? Am I able to hit those targets? And I think a bit of it would also include, my financial goals would also include me writing.
Yes.
Like I started writing for the Entrepreneur, Alhamdulillah. So these were all goals and objectives that I set early on that I wanted to achieve. And they didn't just happen out of the blue. One day I start and I think of doing it. It's a whole process. And I think you've rightfully reflected on the whole journey that it's not a destination. It's more of a process. It's more of a journey where you want to be, and you decide every day
Definitely.
as you grow that, okay, so this is not the ultimate the place that I want to be, but that's obviously, it's like a strategy. It's always evolving where you want to go. But
That's right.
always, I think having those KPIs, having those goals and destinations in place is good to track where you are, track your progress, and obviously see. Yesterday I was at 4, let's say, as an example that you should do, and today I'm at 8. Why? Because maybe I'm healthy enough, maybe I'm more happy, maybe the way that I'm talking to people, maybe my relationship with someone has improved, maybe my food has changed, maybe my work habit has changed, and then reflecting on all those other aspects of your life that can
Yeah.
improve your overall well-being.
Yeah. So one thing that have just came into my mind, if I'm not taking too much of the time, just one
Yeah.
example right through this.
Yeah.
So your purpose at just going to make some analogy here. So you are in a desert. You just have one bottle of water. There are also 500 ml of water. So you are walking through hours and hours in the daytime, and suddenly you see that there is some sort of a water, but actually that was not a water. It was a mirage. That you all know that the concept that if you're seeing something from a far
Yeah.
distance in the heat, so you will see that something there is a water, and what you will be, okay, that the water is here. Let me just consume the whole 500 ml, and I will refill it from that pool or something. But when you reach there, you got to know it was a mirage. It was not. It was never a water. So try to create this analogy in your purpose as well, that your purpose is just like this, and you have that bottle is your energy. That's the human energy you have left to reach to your purpose. So don't try to consume your energy all at once just because you can see something. Most of the times what you are seeing is not exactly what you are expecting. It's blur, it's blurry in its nature. When you get there, you will understand, okay, it's not like that, and I shouldn't be invested this much amount of energy that I have invested in this thing.
Thank you so much, Sarim. We've exceeded expectations with the insights that you've given. I'd just like to recap what we've talked about today. We've talked about how do we find
Sure.
purpose. How do we and purpose is directly proportional to happiness. Convincing your parents, always probably, if you want to, you start your work. How do you do that? And probably have self-love, reflect, and keep moving forward. All of these aspects that you've talked about, and how to avoid burnout. A question that comes to my mind, and this is just a wrap up for tomorrow, is that we've talked about a whole lot of things, and then we talked about those people who are married like ourselves, me and Sarim and other people that I'm mostly interviewing. And the problem that we're facing now is with staying at home and bound by relationships, bound by our children, and the relationships that we have, like Salim and myself, being colleagues, being friends, and now being digital friends. So how do we maintain all these relationships is a concept that a lot of people have reached out with. There has recently been a lot of divorces that are happening after the pandemic in China, for example.
Yes.
So that's a very interesting debate that we are looking to have tomorrow with our next speaker. So I think
Right.
we've probably come to that point where we are saying, how do we maintain our work-life balance? How do we actually I would say, persuade our spouse. What we're trying to do is trying to achieve nirvana in some cases, or trying to achieve our
Yes.
purpose in life. But how do we maintain not just relationships with our spouses, with our family, but in the digital community? So we have a relationship expert that is coming in tomorrow. So please do join us for tomorrow's
Right.
session, which will be happening tomorrow at 2 p.m. I would like to thank Sarim once again for the amazing insights that he's given us. Sarim, just before we leave, what is if people want to
Yes.
join you, if people want to reach out to you and want to connect to you, what are the best platforms to reach out to you?
So you can connect me through my Facebook page or through LinkedIn as well, or through my Facebook profile, Sarim Syed. And again, as we have said, that if you are looking for a job, and since we are in the space of marketing and growth agency, so if you are looking for a job, just make a video and make that video public and tell something about yourself, why you are good at it. If you have this courage of publicly sharing about what you are good at, we will hire you for a job. Just do this,
Amazing.
make that video public, tag me, and doesn't matter you are speaking broken English, broken Urdu, or English or Urdu. Just build up this courage of asking for a job. If you need a job, ask for it.
Amazing, amazing. I think I'd like to add. I'd like to add. This is exactly the same thing. I think Sarim, we're both probably mirrors in that angle where, if you don't ask for something, you don't get it. And this
Yeah,
is something that I've always, cherished, and I've always come up and asked for things. Sometimes you ask for things, and the other person genuinely wants to help you. So I think this whole series is all about that. A lot of people came to me and asked, we need some help, and because I couldn't help everyone, I just ended up creating this series. And I've got amazing people like yourself who are actually dedicated their time,
thank
devoted their
you,
time,
thank you for having me.
and giving all these amazing insights. Thank you once again. We would like to now end our session, but hopefully we will see you again tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Definitely.